I'm Shena, and this is my podcast, Hot.Mess.Knits. You can find me on Instagram at Hot.Mess.Knits, but with a period in between. So hot period, mess period, knits. I decided to start a podcast because I wanted to be part of the knitting community, just be part of the conversation, and, you know, just kind of be more involved that way. That's my kitty over there. That's Jake. Jakey. Yeah, kitty. And anyway, just to share my crafting adventures, I crochet, I knit, I spin, dabbling a little bit in sewing, even though it is rough, but I'm learning. It's fun. I love just doing stuff with my hands. It's hands-on, crafty. I love it. Everything. But yeah, just to share along, whoever is interested in following along with my adventures and, you know, maybe get a few chuckles out of me being really awkward and being really weird, because that's me. And on that note, heads up, there's going to be the occasional naughty word said, F-bomb, whatever. I want to be my authentic self. I don't want to be fake and try to be like, I'm perfect. I want to be me. You know, that's the whole point in making my podcast unique, you know, because hopefully I am different than everybody else. So we'll leave off from there. A few of my goals for this year is to participate in some knit-alongs. Several years back, I've done a crochet along with the Crochet Crowd, and I loved it. And then shortly after that, that's when I started getting into knitting, and I never felt like I was confident enough to do a knit-along. I felt like I'd fall way behind. And I'm still very much learning on knitting, but that's just something I really want to be part of this year. I follow the Grocery Girls like crazy. Binge watched all their episodes after discovering them just last year, and they are by far my favorite podcast. And I know they do knit-alongs, they do the sock-alongs, and that's actually one of my other goals, is to hopefully have like a drawer full of hand-knitted socks, because there's just something about hand-knitted socks. I am obsessed. So those kind of two go hand in hand, which work out great. So that's definitely on the top of my list. And then also, because I spin, I, for whatever reason, don't really knit with my hand spun. I think I'm so proud of what I made, and then it just, you know, I'm waiting for that special project. So maybe I'll start finding projects and just start knitting with them, and then, you know, go from there and just keep going at it. And then another big goal that, you know, fingers crossed it happens by the end of the year, me and one of my best friends, Katie, we are hoping to open a yarn shop. Later on, as we get closer to all that, I will hopefully be able to divulge some more info on that. We are definitely going to do our own podcast for our yarn shop and whatnot. So stay tuned to that. Maybe it'll be a little less awkward. Kitty, don't knock over my camera. He's trying to check it out. So we'll get into yarny stuff. We'll start with my whips after I get another drink of coffee. It's still too early. What time is it? It's 9:43. I've been up since 6, but there's no such thing as too much coffee. Okay, so my most recent whip that I have been working on is a shawl by Andrea Mowry, the Ramble shawl. And I love it. So the first section's done, which is all garter stitch, and it's just, my colors are fantastic. And then I just started getting into the brioche section. I had to frog it, was it once, twice, something like that, but not too bad. But I didn't want to have to keep, you know, taking the time to go through it and then have it all be jacked up. So I ended up emailing Andrea Mowry or her team, support team, and they got back to me actually the same day, which was fantastic, so I didn't have to put it down for too long, and watched a couple YouTube videos, and I figured it out. Brioche and I don't get along. I tried one other time on, it was a simple cowl, and for whatever reason, maybe just because I didn't know the stitches and all that good stuff and even how to do it. But it was epic fail, and actually my friend Katie also was trying to do it with, you know, at the same time, and it was just horrendous. And so it was like thrown in the corner, didn't touch it for, you know, a year or two. Hi, Kitty. And it just, I never wanted to pick it back up again. I frogged it, put the yarn back on the shelf, I was done. Now Katie, however, is, you know, reattempted here recently, and I think she's got it. So it might have been just needed to be on timeout for a while until we were able to pick it back up. But in any case, when I saw this pattern on Ravelry, I was determined to make brioche my bitch, which I'm doing just that because it looks pretty damn good. So I'm proud of myself. I love it. I cannot wait till this is done. Hopefully I'll have a little more time to devote to, you know, knocking out the rest of this. I'm hoping by the end of the month that I have this finished. And in case anybody's interested, the yarn I'm using, I actually got off of yarnbox.com, which I guess they're going out of business, so they're selling off the yarn. And so I got an awesome deal on these. It is Crave Hither yarn, or Crave yarn Hither, and the colorways are Blue Whale and Curio. So I hope I have enough, because I got 2 hanks of this and then one of the, you know, the contrasting yarn. Going off the yardage, it should be, so, but I'm horrible and I did not swatch my gauge swatch. So hopefully it's okay. Hopefully I have enough. And because it was in this project bag, I have to show it, because one of my besties, Katie, she made this for me. We are living in New York, but we are Wisconsin girls through and through. That's where we're born and raised from, and then we married our husbands and moved back to where they're from, here in New York, and ironically, you know, they went to school together, so here we are. But it's nice to have somebody from home that gets the whole being out of state, away from family thing. So it's fantastic. I love it. Love it, love, love it. Okay, moving on with my next whip. Is a crochet blanket that I'm working on for somebody. And, you know, it's slowly getting there. Blankets are not my favorite thing to make. With crochet, thankfully, it works up pretty quickly, so it's not as bad. I do have a knitted blanket that I've been working on since last year, and it's still not very far. Maybe I'll show it next time. I think after I knock out maybe the shawl, maybe I'll pick up my other knitted blanket again. But this is just done in like a simple box stitch, I believe it's called. I just looked up a bunch of different crochet stitches and kind of went from there. It's the one that was easy to remember for on the go. And it's just with Red Heart Super Saver. It's affordable to make, you know, to get yarn in quantity to make a blanket, and you know, easily machine washable, because she's going to actually be gifting it away to somebody else. So there's that. And then my last whip, is spinning. I finished this last week, I believe, and it was with wool that I had that I dyed myself. They were in like lock forms. I wish I would have left one out to kind of show you, but there's always next time. And, you know, combed it, prepped it myself and spun it. This is just a single, but you guys, the colors, I am in love. I will try to figure out how to attach pictures on, you know, at the end of the video to kind of show you what the locks, you know, the colors looked like, and then what they looked like after I, you know, combed them and whatnot. And then this is the spinning. I'm going to 2-ply it or chain ply it. I'm not positive yet. The only problem is if I do 2-ply, I only have this one, you know, spun up. So I would have to take it off of the bobbin and Andean ply it, and that, it's a little tedious. If I had the special tools to make it a lot easier. Otherwise, right now I have to use like a book with a stock card in it, and then do the fancy wrapping and all that good stuff. But then that'll give me more yardage, so I think I'm gonna do that, as much as it's a pain in the butt That's okay. No rush. Nothing in plan for it. I tend to buy wool or roving, yarn, anything, usually on impulse, because it's beautiful and I just have to have it. I never really buy on project based. I don't make project based buys, which, you know, maybe is a bad thing, but you know, I go for what I'm drawn to, and it's just like, oh, that's beautiful, oh, it's so squishy or whatever, and then I got a bunch of balls in my stash to squish. That's just me. I need more coffee. Okay, moving on. I don't buy things very often, just because I don't really go to the yarn shops very often. And online buying, every several months I'll buy, you know, maybe a yarn or two. But for whatever reason, I just don't really here lately. A lot of my yarn that I have was either, you know, that I find at the store marked down on clearance, or I did subscription boxes for Yarn Box in the past, a couple years ago, and it was such pretty yarn, and I was still learning how to knit, so that's, you know, built up in my stash for the year that I was on that. And then I've bought stuff from different yarn stores, like when we go back to Wisconsin to visit, I got yarn from there that I still have not used. So I'm trying not to be too crazy on buying a bunch of yarn when I have a good bit here. Unless I get to a point where there is a project I have in mind and nothing in my stash really works for it, or, you know, is not what I was looking for, or if it's for a gift and it doesn't work, whatever. However, this past weekend we were in Rochester for doctor's appointments for my daughter, and I wanted to make sure I stopped in at a yarn shop up there, because I know there's a couple, and unfortunately only I think one was open in the kind of nearby area where we were. So we went to Village Yarn, and I knew I didn't really need yarn, and I loved a lot of it, but it was a little outside of my price range for that day. So I went ahead and we went to Village Yarn, and I got Malabrigo, I believe that's how you say it, and I got a roving, Malabrigo Nube. And these colors just scream to me. They're just bold and rich, and just the purple and blue hues, and there's some other colors, and I see a peak of yellow-ish color in there. I haven't opened this up to even see. You know what? I plan on spinning this at some point soon, so I'm just going to figure out how to try not to totally, because I can always retape it if I wanted to. But it is, oh, okay, a little fancy. So I guess you can't see a whole lot more, but I mean, come on. I freaking love it. Oh, look how dark that one piece is. Oh, actually I think that might be black or just like a really deep blue. I'm not sure, but either way, anyway, I can't wait. And then if you're wondering what colorway it is candombe. Candombe. So in case you're looking for that, that's what that one is. And then also while we were in Rochester, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Five Below. I've heard of it recently in the past year, and I've never gotten the chance to go into one because there's not any nearby. And then when we went home to Wisconsin to visit, there is one not too far, but you know, time crunch, you're gone for a week and you try to visit everybody and spend time with family, you don't have a whole lot of time to go shopping. And so we were there, and I found this on the clearance rack. So this was $2.50. It's got a big layer, my bad. There we go. It is a weaving wall art kit. So I mean, it's got polyester yarn and string and whatever, but I can reuse, you know, I don't necessarily have to use that stuff in there. You know, I can use it as a learning experience, and I can use my own wool and all that good stuff to make other, you know, more after that. but for $2.50, and you know, just to get dappling and weaving, because I don't have room for a giant loom. As much as that would be so cool at some point in the future when we, you know, when the kids move out and I have a bedroom that is now, you know, that'll be my craft room, then maybe at that point I will, but kind of don't have room, so. I'm trying to think of what else I was going to talk about. I just didn't want to forget anything. That's well, I was gonna say that's kind of the gist of it, but I grabbed some finished objects because I don't have anything real recent that I finished, so I figured I'd share some of my knitting things that I've made, along with finished spinning. Like this was all green and yellow wool that I had dyed, and I was going for Green Bay Packers. Oh yeah, I'm a football girl, but only when it comes to my Packers. They're the only team that I'll watch. But the yellow kind of muted out, which is okay. I mean, it's still a beautiful skein of greenish yarn. Again, I don't know what I'm gonna make with it, but it was chain ply or Navajo plied, chain plied. I think it's the same thing. But it turned out kind of more tonal-ish. And then I had a bunch of just random colors kind of that I had fun experimenting with. And same thing, that was Navajo plied together. And it's just a really fun, bright chunk of yarn. I really need to figure out the yardage on it. I haven't gotten around to that. And then I made myself and Katie matching hats. Originally I made her one, and then I loved the pattern, which I really should have wrote it down. But it was on Ravelry, and it's just cute and simple. It's got just like, you know, a little added touch to the stockinette and ribbing. Oh, but I love it. I love it. And my favorite, I mean, to this date anyway, there's just something about Noro yarn that I'm obsessed. Surprisingly, I don't have a whole lot of it in my stash. Sadly, the local yarn shop changed owners and they got rid of all the Noro yarn. But I did get this from there before they got rid of all of it. And again, I don't have the pattern written down for this. I'm going to be better about this in the future from here on out. But it's just worked in different directions as you go. And the colors are just beautiful. I love how it changes, and then it's got the, you know, almost speckly looked parts of it. I love it. It is my favorite. And then I was so lucky to have this awesome woman from Maryland send me some sheep samples from her farm. So because I was still new to spinning and buying, you know, the raw yarn and spinning from it in that sense. And she sent me a handful of samples, and I made this cute little scarf, skinny scarf. So I did stripes on one end or one side, and then I have little sheepies. And I thought, why not? You know, they're all sheep wool, and it was a fun little project. So again, I love it. It's just a little skinny scarf. You can wear it around the house, whatever. It was just super, super cute. And last but not least, my first sweater that I tried to make was a long cardigan made in Charisma, and somehow I messed up and it doesn't quite pull around to the front like it should. So I think I must have been off on stitch count, or maybe somewhere I was adding on. There were so many different panels to seam together that I didn't even want to bother trying to rip it apart. I mean, there was the back panel, side panel, the sleeves, and then you added on, and it was just more than I wanted to really do. But I used, you know, more budget-friendly yarn that it wasn't a huge loss. But I love Charisma yarn. That is one of my favorite commercially made yarns. It's just, the colors are fantastic, and I love bulky yarn. It works up quick, which is what I made. Back it up. This big, chunky, oversized, cozy sweater. Let me get a little closer. So it's got a tweedy look to it. Chill around the house in. And it was like a vintage pattern that I found on Etsy that somebody was selling. And it's got pockets. Who the hell doesn't like pockets? I love pockets. I live for pockets. But you know, tons of, what do they call it? Positive ease. It's just big, chunky, easy to throw in the wash. I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And that's all I got for finished objects that I wanted to show today. And coming up, I recently subscribed to the Knit Picks fan favorite subscription box thanks to Katie and her getting that, and I'm like, oh, I need to get it too. So I totally signed up. That was kind of my Christmas gift from hubby. Was able to sign up for it. And I think the next time I film or do a video, do a podcast episode 2, I will do the unboxing of that one. I'll have to see, because I don't know. I'm pretty sure I get it this month. In like a couple weeks. It's usually towards the end of the month, I do believe. So I will do that, and then I'm hoping to take a step towards one of my goals and cast on a pair of socks. I don't have a color printer, but these are called, I'm trying to make sure I can see it, Vanilla Latte socks by Virginia Rose Jeans. It's free on Ravelry. That's where I found it. I was kind of looking through. I didn't want anything overly complicated. My last pair of socks I made were super fancy lace, and I just wanted something that I could easily kind of take with me, and you know, I didn't have to think too much about it, but I didn't want just plain stockinette socks. So that's what I found. So it's a little twist on a vanilla sock, and I have this in my stash that I figured I would go ahead and use. And it is Classic Elite Yarns Alpaca Socks. And it's just a gorgeous green. I mean, it's soft, and it's supposed to be a high enough twist that, you know, they're good for socks, but it's got, let's see, 60% alpaca, 20 merino wool, 20 nylon. So, I mean, they should be fairly durable. You know, I'll maybe save it more for not wearing it like every day kind of thing. But it smells a little bit like my other wool I've got in the box with this. I love it. So hopefully I'll have made good headway on my pair of socks that I'm going to knit on or cast on. And let's see. That pretty much is it. So hopefully I'm not as awkward next time. I don't know. But I want to start a conversation with you guys. I don't want it to be, you know, just one way. So if you have any comments or questions or anything, please leave a comment below. Hit subscribe if, you know, you're interested to see what happens next on my podcast. Subscribe. And my question for you guys are, what are your 2019 goals? So we're in the beginning of January still. Well, I guess we're on January 10th, but it's still the beginning. So what are your goals? You know, whether it's knitting related, life related, you know, whatever. Let's talk, let's chat. So let me know in the comments below, you know, and then I can always comment back or, you know, talk about it in the next episode, whichever. We'll see how it goes. But that's it. Peace out. I'll see you guys next episode. Thanks for watching.